In 2017, the first time Donald Trump was president, when Republicans had the White House and the Senate and the House of Representatives, do you know what was the very first substantive piece of legislation they passed? Right, they just got full control. Republicans can do whatever they want. What is the very first thing that they're going to do now that they've got full control in Washington? What's the first thing they did? Their first piece of substantive legislation was a bill that made it easier specifically for mentally ill people to buy guns. And this is not me being hyperbolic. I don't mean like, oh, these people are crazy. No, I mean, no. In Trump's first term, the very first substantive bill that Republicans passed with unified control of government was a bill that made it easier for people to buy guns, specifically people who had been adjudicated to have a mental illness. That was their number one legislative priority in the finite window when they had complete control of the executive and legislative branches of government. That was the most important thing for them to get done. It's very important that mentally ill people have more access to guns and bullets. Well, now, of course, Donald Trump is back in the White House. He once again has unified control of Congress, though this time they can't seem to get much of anything passed. So now Trump is not bothering Congress again to address what still appears to be his number one priority, but he is still working on this matter. And this time he's going even further. Quote, the Trump administration is scrapping more than 36 firearms regulations, abandoning a crackdown on illegal sales, loosening oversight of private weapons transactions, and, oh, one more thing, quote, restoring gun rights to some people with mental illness. For real. He's actually doing this again right now, trying to take this further, prioritizing and taking government action specifically, not as like a washover effect, not as an unintended consequence, but deliberately and on purpose and specifically to ensure that mentally ill people can have access to firearms and ammunition. This is what's most important to you? This is your priority? The mentally ill aren't well armed enough in America? In a sane, forgive me, world, every Republican in the country would be asked about this every time they show their faces in public. Seriously, this second time around, Trump's own administration studied the consequences of rolling back this regulation. In their study, they found, they actually wrote down that making it easier for more mentally ill people to buy guns will increase the risk to public safety, quote, up to and including potential mass casualty events. They determined that, the Trump administration determined that that would be the effect, and then they decided to do it anyway. Joining us now is Mariana Mitchum. She is the former Associate Assistant Director at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, where she worked for 20 years. She quit last year when the Trump administration started rolling back gun safety measures. She's now the Senior Industry Advisor with Everytown for Gun Safety. Ms. Mitchum, thanks very much for taking time to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
What goes into that kind of analysis? The Trump administration itself says this kind of change will lead to more mass casualty events. They are nevertheless doing it anyway. What do they study in order to make that sort of a determination about the likelihood of the impact of this kind of regulation change?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't tell you what exactly went into this study since I am no longer at ATF, but I can tell you what we used to do when I was there previously. We made some very important regulatory changes under the previous administration. And in all of those changes, we always had an eye towards public safety. We must always ensure that no harm will be caused to the public when making these changes. It seems like that wasn't the same process this go around with these 30 proposed regulatory changes.
And this one about mental illness is one of them. Taking the larger group as a whole, as you say, some 30 regulatory changes that they're making all at once. What should we, as Americans, as the public, expect will be the practical impact of these changes that they're imposing?
Yeah, unfortunately, we really have to look at these 30 regulatory changes together, right? Don't look at each individual one in a vacuum because they are intended to work together. They are layered upon each other. And some of the biggest things that I want to draw everyone's attention to are the changes to non-over-the-counter sales. Right now, any individual in this country, in every single state, it does not matter where you live, if you want to purchase a firearm, you have to do it in person. You actually have to go into the gun store, you have to fill out paperwork, and most often have to complete an on-site point-of-sale background check. These proposed regulatory changes are looking to completely wipe that out. They would allow for mail order sales. So individuals could sit within the comfort of their home and purchase a firearm 100% online. They do have in the proposed changes, they have some information that they claim will ensure that the person who is purchasing the firearm is who they claim to be and is not prohibited. Unfortunately, there's really no way to do that, right? With the technology that's out there, it's very easy to produce fake documents, to have, a fake Zoom call where you are pretending to be someone that you actually are not. And unfortunately, spending 20 years regulating the industry, I always found that the gun store was actually the best and first line of defense in stopping dangerous people, criminals, and juveniles from obtaining weapons. And this non-over-the-counter change will completely eliminate their ability to stop those transactions.
It's stunning. Mariana Mitchum, formerly with the ATF, now senior industry advisor with Everytown for Gun Safety. I really appreciate you being here to help us understand this. As these things roll out, I think we're going to need a lot more public education about what this means. I'd love to have you back to talk about it again.
I would love to do that. I'd be honored to do that. I want to make sure that the public is aware of just how dangerous these things are, because at the end of the day, we should all be aiming to make sure that we are protecting each other, protecting our children, and making sure that dangerous people do not have access to firearms.
Mariana Mitchum, thank you so much. I appreciate it.